In this video, I'm going to look at a Python program that reads in a text file and is going to use that to create a Dada poem. So that just means take the words of the text file, rearrange them randomly, and sort of spit it out in sort of a stanza form, what have you. Okay, so here's the file I'm going to read. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. That's what the file I'm going to read. Here's the file's location. So here's the Python, and that file is right next to it. So they are in the file system siblings. Save and okay, so if you want this code, including the poem, it can be found at this URL. So I'm doing some imports. I'm going to put the words in a random order. I'm also going to figure out how many words are on each line, sort of randomly. So I'm importing random. I'm importing string, and I want to take from the poem that I read in and get rid of punctuation and the string as sort of predefined for me all the punctuation, so I don't have to myself think of what they might be. They're sort of all sort of already spelled out, so I'm going to use that. And then in my editing of the poem, I want to eliminate like white space and return characters and what have you. And so I'm going to use the sort of regular expressions class for that. Okay, so here we go. Read in a file. And I'm just reading it all at once. So open it up, call it F, and then read F and take all that I've read and put it into this uh, variable file underscore data. And we've seen what the poem looks like, multiple lines. There was punctuation marks. There were spaces and capital letters and what have you. Using the strings lower method and putting all of the letters into lowercase and assigning that back to the same variable file underscore data. I'm using this translate method, and I'm doing this thing called here make trans. And the first two arguments are sort of this, I don't know, one for one sort of substitution. So I have decided, and it's got to be like the same length of thing. So I've decided to take any new line character, \n, and replace it with a space. And then this third argument is things I am eliminating. And I'm using string.punctuation, and that is going to eliminate for me all the punctuation. So in this is sort of this one line of code, I'm replacing new line characters with spaces and getting rid of the punctuation. And this may be a little bit redundant, but I'm sort of playing a similar game here, that I am using a regular expression in this case and substituting the square brackets represent a set. And then within the square brackets, if I have a caret, just be warned that the caret outside, if the caret was at the beginning outside of the square bracket, it would mean something different. But inside the bracket, a caret sort of means not. So I'm saying here, anything that is not the letters A to Z, and then after that I have a space. So anything that's not a small letter or a space, I am replacing with a space and assigning that back to file data. So after I got rid of punctuation and \ns, I am replacing anything that might still be remaining that's not small letters or spaces with a space. And then I might have, say, multiple spaces. I might have had 2 or 3 spaces in a row by now. And so I'm doing another regular expression substitution, and \s is a white space, and the plus means sort of like any amount. So replace any amount of space, white space, with a single white space. So I'm getting down. I don't want any, spans of spaces, what have you. And then I'm using strip in line 23 there to get rid of any white space that might be at the beginning or end of the file. Okay, so I just, there may be some redundancy here, but I just want to make sure I have words separated by spaces and no apostrophe. So if I had any possessives or conjunctions or what have you, that's all um, pulled out, and all I have is small letters and spaces between words. Okay. Then now that I have it in that format, I am using the space as a delimiter and splitting that thing and creating a list of words. And then I am using the shuffle function of the random class to take this list and put it into a random order. So now I have effectively my Dada Poem. That's what a Dada Poem is. I have some link at the top that sort of explains in one of the original Dada artists what he thought a Dada poem was. And it's more of a creative exercise. You're not really supposed to expect a good poem out of it, but sort of the random positioning of words is supposed to spark your creativity. Anyway, all right. So now let's just print it out, and I want to print it out and make it look sort of poemy when I'm done. So let me finally at this stage run it. And here it is. So I wanted it to still have this some kind of a line structure, but it's also random. So what I decided to do, I'm going to every once in a while move to a new line. So I have a Boolean for that. New line, true and false. I started off with true, so I am, first thing in, starting a new line. I'm going to count how many words I have on a line and then decide to return after I reach some limit. And so that's what count is for in line 35. And then in line 37, I'm determining how long the line is. And I'm doing that randomly. So I'm picking a number between 6 and 8. So it's either my lines are either going to be 6, 7, or 8 words long. And so I'm using the get a random integer, the randint method from the random class, and calling that line length. And I'm going into my looping over, I have this words list that I created from splitting my text. And I usually refer to it as word is my sort of dummy element as I work through my array. And I'm treated a little bit differently if it's a new line or not. So if it is a new line, then I am printing the word. I'm using the strings capitalize method, which will make the first letter in the word capitalized. I wanted some space between the words, so I pretend I am printing out in print a second thing. If I actually put a space in here, I end up with 2 spaces. So I'm just indicating that there is a second thing, and it is going to give me then the space. And then I am just starting a new line. And in general, I want the words to go after the previous word and not move automatically to a new line, which print does. And so I say end equals quote, quote, or single quote, and that prevents it from print from moving down to the next line. If I've already started that word, it's no longer a new line, so new line is false, and I increment my counter. If I'm not a new line, I also have a lot of I's in this particular poem, so I wanted to, if it was just a small I, make it a capital I. So that's all this little the 51, 52 does. I'm printing the word, I'm incrementing my counter, and then I want to know, uh, I do something different again if I'm at the end of my line, and that is when my count, if my count is equal to my line length, then I'm going to want a new line. So one thing I'm going to do is restart my counter for set it up for the next time. I'm going to just print nothing, but without any others, uh, without this sort of end equals quote quote in my print. This gets me onto a new line. And if I wanted to say skip 2 lines or something, I could say print a backslash n, and that would print on its own would get me a new line, and the backslash n would get me a second line if I wanted to skip lines, for instance. Um, I'm I'm returning, so now I'm going to be in a new line. So I set my new line boolean to true, and I get a new line length at random. So that's it. That's my little program. Some fun play here with string manipulation, getting rid of punctuation and white space and what have you, um, and just some string methods and list methods and random methods and regular expression methods and just a little bit of fun in Python. Thanks for your attention.